Good evening. Welcome to the Sunday edition of Spurs Diehards TTID, Tottenham Till I Die. Harold Wilson once said a week is a long time in politics, and perhaps 52 hours is a long time in football. It's 52 hours since the news broke that Tottenham had sacked their manager, Ange Postecoglou, just over 2 weeks after winning our first European trophy in 41 years. Tonight we're going to discuss that. We're going to though move on and discuss the ramifications going forward, including who's coming in and when we might expect to see that, changes in ownership. Ben Davies has got a new contract. We've sacked several of the coaching staff, the women's coach. So it's been a pretty quiet week there, all in all. But let me say hello to my panel first of all. Johnny Hamay, a lot of you on social media will know Johnny. Good evening, Johnny. How are you?
Hi, I'm actually devastated because I've just found out, looking at the title here, that Ange has been sacked.
Yeah, right. I'll come back to you first, Johnny. You've obviously got a lot. One of our regulars on the show, Tom Clark. Good evening, Tom. Zookeeper Tom.
Hello. You're good.
And my co-host, fellow, whatever it is, founder of this channel, Adrian. Good evening, Adrian.
Yeah, I'm fine. Looking forward to getting into it. There's a lot to get into, isn't there?
There is a lot to get into, so we're not going to waste too much time. Johnny, you have an inside track. You've been saying for a number of weeks that Ange was history. Didn't matter what happened in Bilbao, Ange was going.
Yeah.
So let me give you, and you're probably, one of the reasons I was desperate to get you on the show tonight is of all the people that I know, you were as big an Ange outer as there was. So give us your take on the events of the last 2 or 3 days.
Well, listen, look, first of all, as much as I was Ange out, congratulations to him on winning the trophy. And, I think for him, he will sail off into the sunset. I think it's the best thing that could happen for Ange Postecoglou, personally, because wherever he goes now, he's guaranteed at least 2 years, right? Even if he starts badly, I was winning my second year. Who's going to argue with him? So, for his career, he's dropped the mic at a high, and who knows? It could be another 41 years before that's achieved again. But unfortunately, a manager can't stay in his job for about a moment in time and a final. It's based on your performance over the period you've been in situ. And unfortunately for him, 34 league defeats in 2 seasons is unacceptable. We've heard about the injuries. We've heard all the stories, but I think what had happened was when you say things like you cannot commit to having a successful cup campaign at the same time as being successful in the league, you're starting to say things which are just ridiculous. When you look at Pochettino, finished fourth and got to a Champions League final where he hadn't had a signing for 500 days. You don't need to be making up excuses like that. You know, when we're playing teams like Karabag, Elfsborg, and the like, and when you're resting players midweek, and then you come to the home game having rested those players, and you're losing to Ipswich at home and Leicester at home, they're really unforgivable. But that ship has sailed, and I don't think there's any value in discussing the negatives of what happened with Ange. I think, the thing is to talk about how he left. And, unfortunately, as he said, the best season is season 3. Unfortunately, season 3 was cancelled because they thought the script was a little bit too far-fetched. And they had funding issues for season 3. So we start a new reign with a new manager. Look, I understand why people are so angry that the club didn't make this decision in their eyes much earlier, but the decision had been made a lot earlier. The thing is here, how could you sack Ange Postecoglou after Bilbao, and on that Friday, unfortunately, I couldn't make it back. I was still in Bilbao, so I missed the parade, which I'm upset about. But even I, looking on at that, and just like upset I wasn't there. But the emotion, there's no way that, however cold a person you are, you could have sacked him at that moment. And I think the dust needed to settle. And I think people thinking that, Thomas Frank hadn't been selected and there was all these different coaches and they still don't know. That's just the press messing around and speculating, in my opinion. I think Frank has been on the radar for quite a while. Sorry, go on.
Julie, when was the decision taken?
I think before the Palace game.
Before the Palace game?
Yeah.
The Palace game was only 10 days before Bilbao.
Yeah, but, there was conversations. There've been conversations, feelers. Look, you couldn't have another situation like we had under Conte, where Conte left and it took 4 months for Scott Munn to find Ange Postecoglou. You can't have that. You imagine if we had even 6-7 weeks now. The fans are going mad already. The transfer window is open. It closes on Tuesday. We haven't got a manager in situ. So theoretically, we can't, in the fans' eyes, we can't make moves in the transfer window. Okay. But I can tell you, having spoken to Ange Postecoglou, Fabio and the rest would have already had conversations with him if he's going to be taking the job, which is, I would say, 10 to 1 on that he's going to take the job. The only thing that can throw it is compensation for the associate staff. And it is what it is. And Levy's going to have to cough up. I mean, what is sad that yet again, Daniel Levy, if you tot it up, I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but he's paying around £6 million compensation for Ange to leave, and probably around £12 million, £11 million for him to come in with his staff. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right, Johnny, we will come back because there's a lot to get into here. Tom, you one of those people that has been fairly ambivalent about the ownership, about the managership. So what's your take, particularly having had 2 days to reflect?
I mean, so for me personally, I felt that Ange had earned the right to at least give next season a shot. However, I am also very understanding that the league form was absolute crap. and you are risking that if you go into next season, that you're just going to get more of the same, and then you're in a situation where you're then looking to get a manager in, and then not have the summer build that you can potentially have now with that new manager. My biggest gripe over the situation, if they knew they were going to sack him, irrespective, of whatever the result was in the final, I don't get why they've waited 16 days after the final to make that decision. Like, I'll be honest with you, I thought that they had put the parade on the Friday rather than the bank holiday Monday, because they were going to basically sack Ange after the final whistle of the last game of the season. I thought that game was going to end, and they were going to say, we really want to thank Ange for everything he's done this season, getting trophy, but it's time for us to move into our next, journey, or next, stage of this painful rebuild, or whatever it might be, and stuff. I just think them dragging it out for 16 days, then left all this period of time, basically 2 weeks of time, of people going, well, nothing's been said, so I guess he's the manager next year. Let's get going, and essentially that's then been pulled out from underneath everyone. So I can feel it. My one thing with it is that I really do think that if it is Thomas Frank, and I hope it's Thomas Frank at this stage now, I actually think he is a sleeping giant of a manager. I really do feel like he is, he is definitely worthy of getting an opportunity at a big club, and he's probably not going to be given that opportunity at a City, at a Liverpool, at a the upper echelons of the Premier League.
He was offered United.
Yeah. So the next step up was either a United, a Spurs, or someone around that sort of level. So actually, like, us getting in now and getting him, I think is probably a sensible decision. It's just the fact that obviously, we're going to be spending good portion of our budget on sacking Ange, paying him a 2 million winning bonus, and then getting Thomas Frank and his staff in. The thing that I'm looking forward to with Frank is he is a tactician. He is a guy that has played several different styles of football. In the Championship, they were very attacking, possession-based, scoring lots of goals. And then he had the pragmatism. That's not the right way of saying it, but he was pragmatic enough that when they got promoted, he knew that ain't going to fly. And look how many teams have come up to the division from the Championship, and they've tried playing the same way they played in the Championship, and they've just gone straight back down. He had the nous to actually go, this ain't going to work. I need to change my style. And over time, he's now started getting more possession-based and attacking. And actually, he's quite direct with his plays. I am excited about Thomas Frank. I'm upset about... Upset's not really the word. Well, a bit frustrated and a bit angry about the Ange situation and how...
Can I just ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Would you have been happy as a fan if they sacked him on the Monday morning? Because I think it was totally wrong. I think that, the club and the players, it would have just killed it. And that's why I think, allowing this period, although it doesn't sit well, maybe there was an equilibrium. Maybe, a week after might have been, the sweet spot, and, leaving it too far. But I definitely think, could you imagine the uproar had they sacked him on the Monday or the Tuesday after that parade?
I don't think it would have been as bad, to be honest with you, because actually we were abysmal against Brighton. So actually sacking him after that you would have gone, okay, I can kind of... I actually think the fact that it was allowed to fester and people were in a state of unknown made it way worse. And actually to the point where people start going, people were saying all over social media, why do they have to confirm he's the manager next year? No other club confirms he's the manager next year. No news is good news, or whatever it is. So they let it fester and let the fans get angry about them not making a decision. Whereas if they had just said right on that Monday, thank you, Ange, a bit of a nicer statement than what they kind of put out. Thank you, Ange, for everything you've done. Like you won us our first trophy thing, but when it's now, we now feel it's time to move in another direction with another manager. Thank you for your hard work in this at the beginning of this painful rebuild. That's what they could have literally done.
Tom, I'm going to stop you, not for any reason. A couple of things. I do want to go through the chat and obviously bring it as well. There are 93 of you watching, which is absolutely fantastic so far. 96 now. It's going up exponentially, which is a good word for me on a Sunday night. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. I think there's a link, Adrian, isn't there? To
in the bottom right-hand corner, the red subscribe button. We can't see it, so others should be able to see it.
They can. Blaine, and he said, I think he said he can't stay. I picked up the wrong one, but I think he said he can't stay too long.
Blaine, do you want to put a link into Football Link while you're there?
That's the point. We need links for Johnny. I don't know if you've got them.
Can you put the link in?
I can't. Maybe Blaine can. Football Link.
Yeah. If you can put your links in, they'll be absolutely shown. MKP, I don't know you, do I? Anyway, good evening. Good evening to you, sir or madam. Graham, I think I've picked you up before. Mr., Mrs. or Ms. Knight. Evening all.
Beverly Knight. It could be
Beverly Knight. Okay.
Brian,
right.
Real life friend. It's Brian.
Sorry, Jose is here. Good evening, Jose. Dos uno, I think I read. Dos uno de España. Something like that, anyway. Yeah, just a comment on what we've been speaking about. I was 50-50. Ultimately, the poor league performances, you cannot look past it. Sad, but it was inevitable. Johnny, I think that's very much your view, isn't it?
Yeah. I think saying you can't combine the two when you're resting players in the Europa League, how the hell was he going to go into the Champions League where you can rest nobody? And where would the league form be then? It's you can't. I think he signed his own death warrant, to be honest with you, at that point.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that, Johnny.
Can I get Adrian in? Can I get Adrian in? You were one of you were one of a bit like me. I mean, I was a big Ange disciple, living in Scotland, having seen his football that Celtic played. That was played Johnny Hammy's Rangers off the park at times, and it was exhilarating and it was fun. But there's no doubt he struggled, although you wanted to give him more time, Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he deserved another shot, but he's gone now. And the thing is, the timing of the sacking, well, you have to give the fans some time to celebrate the win. And if, I believe, like Johnny said, that his fate was sealed way before the final. Winning the final and then the parade, well, you can't sack him after the final, otherwise 250,000 people would have rioted, right? And the parade would have turned into an absolute riot, wouldn't it? So you couldn't do it. I don't think there was ever going to be good timing. Actually, there wasn't. There was, because it's it's a hard choice to make. It's not a good decision for the club to make. So I just think we're going to get a new man who looks like it's Frank. I'm not one of those. There will be some that want to throw darts at Frank before he's even started the job. That's not me. I'll always support the management to come in, and the fan base should want any new manager to come in and hope that they have real success at this football club. Continue.
Long live the king. I mean, and that will always be the way football is, I suspect.
Yeah.
Johnny, can I bring you back? This from Blaine. Loads of reports tonight. I haven't seen this one. I've heard a lot about American
Patronus.
Patronus. I haven't seen Patronus. I mean, I've heard names banded about, the Qataris, Americans, Malaysians, but Patronus isn't a name I've seen linked. So have I been had my head in the sand, or?
Well, no, they're a state-owned oil and gas company. You've probably seen
where?
Them from Malaysia. You're probably
right. Okay. Well, I have heard Malaysia. Not Patronus. Okay.
Yeah, Patronus.
Okay.
Hence the Patronus Towers. The Patronus Towers.
Yeah, it's the state-owned oil and gas company. You probably see them a lot on the the Mercedes cars. They're often on there. They're obviously a massive company, but I don't think. Listen, look back in March, Ian. I was saying when Peter Charrington turned up and came onto the board, that this was a major, major event, and absolutely nobody was interested. I kept going on about it. No one had any interest. And then Vinay turns up, and I said, "Oh my God, this is serious, right? Why are you getting excited about an Arsenal guy who spent 20 years at Arsenal coming over to Spurs? What's he ever done? You know, if he was that good, he wouldn't be leaving." I didn't look at any of that. All I was looking at was, you know, Vinny's, when he left Arsenal, he was offered massive jobs in private equity in both United States and Saudi Arabia, and a job at Newcastle. For him to come to Spurs, to leave Arsenal, to come to Spurs, to head up this project, they had to sell him. The story has already been told. The objective has already been told. And when you have Joe Lewis's private banker, you know, coming in and, overseeing it, you're talking about two massive heavyweights on that board.
Yeah, but Johnny, for those that aren't as au fait, certainly as you are, let alone me, Carrington has control of the trust, as in Joe Lewis's shares. He is the nominee on the board, and the Company's House, if you look him up on Company's House, it says that he is in control of the trust shares, which is something like 86% of ENIC. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it was someone called Brian Glinton and Katie Booth. I think they were when Joe Lewis had his issues. He pushed the shares into the trust, and these were two Bahamas lawyers. Peter Charrington is a Bahamas-based lawyer, as I said, former head of Citibank when it was Bank of the Year, 2 years running. He would be a heavyweight without any doubt whatsoever, and he's Joe Lewis's personal banker. So for me, as soon as I knew he's coming onto the board, I'm thinking to myself, listen, he ain't coming onto this board to oversee football matters, okay? He's in there to oversee financial matters. Now, it's clear that Spurs have three very big capital-intensive projects that need to be completed. The hotel, the extension of the medical facility at Hotspur Way, and then the Whitewebs development, which is rumoured to be, you know, the women's football team, the NFL, more training facilities and so forth. These are capital-intensive projects of which Spurs don't have the money to go through with. So when Daniel Levy 20 months ago approached Rothschilds, the famous private bank, to look for equity partners, someone to come in and put money in, I'm thinking, it's going to happen. And nothing's happened. The fact that these two guys have come in the space between the end of March and April signified to me that something's afoot, change is happening, and I've never swayed from that. I've never made any predictions of who it's going to be, but it would happen. They need money. I wouldn't be surprised if it was potentially like a 10% initial investment, and then potentially a rolling acquisition over, say, 3 years where Daniel steps down. I'm not sure whether Petronas would come in and pay the money Daniel wants, but that's why Peter Charrington is there, because maybe we know that how many people have been interested in buying Tottenham Hotspur, from Todd Bowley to Bloomberg. The list is endless, right? I could go through them.
Go back to Abramovich, Johnny.
Right. You could go back. Well, the thing is, Abramovich never touched down. He just saw another club on the other side of London. But I wonder whether or not, you know, they thought to themselves, well, why are none of these deals going through? Why are none of them going through? Why are they falling at the final hurdle? You hear stories that the goalposts have been moved at the final hurdle, or he's been making demands. This way, the fact that Charrington is there to oversee the biggest shareholders' interests, might be the deciding factor in making sure that any deal does get over the finish line. So that's why I'm excited.
I'm going back to the chat, and then I'm going to bring Tom and Adrian in. But I do want to ask you one important question: is that particularly for the Jewish supporters at Tottenham, that Petronas will be far more acceptable than Qataris or even the vast majority of Americans that have been mooted?
I mean, listen, look, Petronas is a Muslim, Malaysian Muslim country. I don't think it's going to have any effect on that per se, in my opinion. The Qatari deal was probably the one that they may have an issue with. That's not to say that the Qataris aren't there. It's well known that the Qataris, QSI, have been trying to get out of Paris Saint-Germain. You know very well there's no money in French football rights. They can't buy the stadium. There's a fraction of the money involved in French football that there is in the Premier League. So to offshoot their stake, that's why for QSI they could potentially take a 10% stake in Spurs and not have major interest.
I was going to say without us being kicked out of the Champions League.
Correct. Yeah.
Let me say hello to a few people in the chat. Tom, I want to get you in, and Adrian. Ben, good friend of the show, good friend of mine, fellow celebrant in was it Block 127 in Bilbao. So evening, Ben. So where we got there? The 2-1. Brian from Spain. Don't know if you're still here.
Is that latest score or is that the final score?
Yeah, I don't know. And there's too much going on this show for me to check my phone at the moment. Peter Kagaias, life is not complete, as everybody knows who watches this show regularly.
2-2, by the way. It's 2-2.
Without a time check from... and it shows actually 6:12. 12, what are we? What time is it now? 27. So it shows I'm getting behind. New manager needs to start strong. We are going to come on to that. We are definitely going to come on to that. A couple of you saying hi to each other. Graham to Ben. Jose to Peter. Peter to Jose. Yeah, well, these are really good questions coming here. And what do you think the new manager's targets will be? And we'll come on to that. Sorry, I've lost that one. Yeah, shout out to my mate Johnny. Yeah, no H in Johnny.
All right, Dan.
Yeah. Family at Friday night dinner. There's always good. Thanks, Ben. You've just won the internet for the night. There's a few other people here. I saw Jess as well. Peter, Peter, thank you so much, my friend. So appreciated, really appreciated. And there's Pure Coins, big up, yeah, much love.
Big up.
Yeah, Charrington has more buying power. I think, yeah. I mean, this is Charrington is massive compared to. I mean, Levy is the office boy compared to Charrington. There's David Shear, good friend of the show. Good evening to you, David. And David Clark, the other David, hi from Leicester. I hope everyone in the chat is well. Yeah, I think we're all recovering, David. I think would be it's Phil P, evening Europa champions. Indeed. And I think if I've missed anybody out, I apologise. Sincerely apologise. Tom, let's move the show on. 136 of you now on board, which is great. We keep getting some good numbers, so hopefully we're producing good content for you. Tom, Thomas Frank, your thoughts on Thomas Frank?
Yeah, I was saying it earlier. I think he's a really, really good manager, and I think he potentially could be a sleeping giant. He could be the next manager that steps up to being a top quality manager. I can understand people's reservations on him because he has basically only worked at Brentford. He has obviously done a few other jobs in the Danish league and in the Danish national team set up lower down the age ranks and stuff like that. But like just to say, and this is what irritated me when we signed Ange, when people going, he's never done it in a decent league, he's never done it, blah blah blah. Well, he's now in a decent league, so we'll see if he can do it. And reason why it bugs me now with Thomas Frank, with people saying, why are we getting him in? He's never won anything. He's never proved he can do it at the top level, blah, blah, blah. Well, neither did Eddie Howe before he went to Newcastle. I bet we'd all take Eddie Howe as our manager now. Neither did Pochettino before Pochettino became our manager. I bet we'd all like Pochettino to come back. And now, maybe not all of us, but like Poch to come back now. There's always a first time for every manager to move into a big job and to then compete at those levels. They're not very, very few. Guardiola, probably one of the only ones that you can say that was just hoisted into the position at Barcelona, where he without doing any prior work and was a raging success. They've got to start somewhere and they've got to get their opportunity somewhere. And like it or loathe it, we're not one of the top upper echelon teams in the league. We're not in that top two bracket of City and Liverpool. So for him to make that step up, it's got to be at that midway point. And I would say, we are at that, well, not midway, but we're that upper midway point. So
All right,
actually,
Tom, let me play devil's advocate with you for a minute. Bring in Adrian in a second. One of the things that the statement said, and you can interpret it more than one way, but was we need I'll summarise it, or that it said we need a manager going forward that can compete on all fronts, which was, I think, on one hand, a barber Ange for saying I can't win league games and win the Europa League. It was almost a little bit underhand. But on the other hand, you say, okay, you want to get a manager in who can compete in 4 competitions. But Thomas Frank has never competed in 4 competitions. I can't remember if they got to a semi-final of the Cup. They've been mid-table, and they've never been in Europe. So on that basis, where does Thomas Frank have the kudos, the experience, the knowledge, or experience to manage a club the size of Tottenham? If that was their reason for sacking Ange,
where would you put? I was just going to say, where would you think Ange Postecoglou would be if he was the manager of Brentford?
Well, there's a good question. We could argue about that all day, but I'm not arguing that.
I mean, I know where I think he would be.
I think
get relegated.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But there's talk he might be the manager of. But Tom, I know seriously, I'm playing devil's advocate with you deliberately. The club statement said we want a manager that can compete on all fronts, and they bring in allegedly we're bringing in a manager that's never been to a cup semi-final, to the best of my knowledge. He didn't do that much at Bromby. He's never managed in Europe, let alone in the Champions League, and never been in the top 4 in the Premier League. So where's his qualifications for the job if that was the criteria?
But I mean, I think that's an issue on the club statement, really. I mean, like Ange earlier in the season, he said that the club made a mistake in the summer and didn't get enough in for the squad. Like he said that he said that he was partly responsible for that, and he said that they made the mistakes of not getting enough in. They underestimated what they would need to be able to compete on all fronts. So irrespective of who the manager is, the playing squad is not good enough to compete on all fronts anyway. That being said, I understand what you're saying with Thomas Frank, but when's he going to get that opportunity? I mean, like, crying out loud, he's at Brentford. Like Brentford were perennial, Championship second division team.
Yep.
The only reason they're in the Premier League is because of him, and the only reason why they're still in the Premier League is because of him. Not saying because of him, but their whole data approach and the way that Brentford went to do things was quite revolutionary for football in this country. But you got Tottenham. We're not a club that has success at going for the best manager. We tried it with Conte. You can argue we tried it with Mourinho, and it's just not succeeded. Where Tottenham have had success is by going for that manager that could be the next best thing. Your Martin, your Pochettino. So actually, to me, looking at all the performances and everything that Thomas Frank has done, and yes, okay, season 4 last, they finished 16th, but they stayed in the league. I genuinely think that he has all the nous, and the way that he uses data to help back up what he wants to do is the way that football is going now. And he is a guy that will take the advantage of every little thing he can. Like if Thomas Frank is coming, we'll be getting set piece coaches. Like absolutely, we'll have set piece coaches and we'll be working on that. I wonder if he could even convince the guy that he used to have that went to Chelsea to come to Spurs and stuff.
I went to Arsenal, right?
Oh, it might have been Arsenal. Yeah, sorry. It was either Arsenal or Chelsea, one of those two. Someone I don't like. But yeah, so it's I just think you do need to take a chance, and I do feel like Frank is maybe a manager that could be here for the next 3, 4, 5 years, and you could see the best of him.
Adrian, that's a great opportunity to bring you in, because one thing you and I have been consistent on is this constant wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. And if Levy, you can say, let's all unite on one criticism of Levy, is his inability to stick with one manager through a little bit of thin to see him out the other end. And Ange Postecoglou is the latest victim of this. But there is something about Thomas Frank that now the dust has settled on Ange's dismissal, there's something about what this man might bring that's quite exciting.
Yeah. But we didn't have this conversation when Poch came in, and he wasn't the first choice, was he?
Well,
we didn't have this conversation when Nuno Espirito Santo brought in, and we didn't know nothing about those two managers. We knew about Conte and Mourinho, but we all knew that was going to end because they weren't the right fit with them. They were egocentric managers. It was all about them and not about the club. They thought they were bigger than the club. I didn't want either of them. I know they're world-class managers in their own right, but I didn't want either of them. And I didn't want another rinse and repeat. But, I'm not going to throw darts at Ange, who I know very little about. I haven't researched him. I do loads of research with Spurs, but I haven't researched Frank, right? And so just because my angst at the club is strong, right? I'm not now going to use that. I'm not going to be bitter about it and say, because that we should all have a pop at Frank because he looks like he's coming in, because the fan base should get firmly behind him and support him. Because if we want success, you want to support that. You've got to support the manager as well, and he's got to be encouraged by the support us fans give him. So yeah, all right. It looks like he is the hot favourite. He's in. Nothing. We've got no solidity of specification at the moment. Nothing at all. Remember when we was in for slot and things like that, and it didn't happen. I'm not expecting any last-minute hiccups. I think this deal's been done and dusted, as Johnny alluded to, back to the Palace game. I think he's coming in. But you've got to use the right protocols, approach Brentford now, make the formal offer and say you're going to pay the buyout clause. And you're only doing that if the manager's already agreed to come, right? So, yeah. But I didn't want to rinse and repeat, but we are where we are now. Let's all get behind. The fan base shouldn't be bitter about – you can be angry at the board for the way that all this has happened. That's fair enough. But don't take it out on Frank, right?
No. Johnny, I tell you, I'm going to need to take a comfort stop, not because I need the loo, but because I'm sitting on my balcony in Spain and I'm getting eaten alive by mozzies, and I need to put Sonny in and I'll be jumping up and down. But let me ask you this. Could you see a situation where it got very toxic very quickly if Thomas Frank started the season badly?
Well, he has. Hasn't even started. I give him 6 months. I give him 3 months. It's all over. It's all over X. You know, you're going to have the Ange crowd, and I'm not talking, you know, you guys, because you're reasonable, but there are a lot of people out there who will say, "Oh, well, look at this, Thomas Frank." You know, Ange Postecoglou was unbeaten in his first 10 games. Frank's already lost 4 out of his first 10. You know, you can see he's no good. With fans completely forgetting the celebrations when we beat Sheffield United in the 97th minute, like we just won the Europa League trophy. You know, a team that got relegated, or the game 2 games later when somehow or other between the referee and the VAR, they missed 101 decisions against Liverpool that, you know, should never have been, and we would have lost that game. So, I don't think any manager is ever going to be given 34 games losses before he gets sacked. I mean, how many people thought there's no way that Ange is going to survive till Christmas last year? I mean, the ironic thing is, guys, is that the tail end of last season, Ange ball fell off a cliff. We lost 5 of our last 7 games, and the only 2 games we won were against relegated Sheffield United and Burnley. Yet that disaster turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because we fell out the Champions League positions and we dropped into the Europa League positions. Because let me tell you, had this team ended up in the Champions League, it would not have been pretty. If you think this was ugly, imagine trying to play Champions League football and, you know, the league form. It would have been ugly.
Yeah, I have to disagree when people conflate last season with this season. I mean, all right, fair enough on the games lost this season. But if you take the beginning of last season, Ange's given one oven-ready player in Solanke. He starts the season without arguably the best striker in the world. The first 10 games, win 8, draw 2, which is a record. VDV gets injured, he's out. Maddison gets his ankle done, he's out. Matty Cash does Bentacore, he's out. You've got Basuma has 3 suspensions, which is a disgrace. Romero has 1 suspension. Players go away on international duty and come back. And after that 26 points, we finished up with 66. We got another 40 points playing without key players. Playing without key players who are missing for injury or suspended or away. So we got 66 points and finished 5th. I think that was to me, he had a good season last season. This season of the league, crap. Right? So last season, I thought he did remarkably well. I've got to disagree with John. I think he did remarkably well last season.
Well, I don't think someone who loses 5 of your last 7 games is not a good performance. You can't blame the players there, because Romero was there. I saw it. I was there. Right?
But people do this, don't they? They try to contextualise by saying, "Oh, the last 5 games."
Oh,
we'd have got relegated if we hadn't done well in the first 10 games. You can't do that.
Adrian, I am doing it, and I'm saying it worked out to be a blessing, is what I'm saying to you.
Well, yeah, it did. No, it did. In hindsight, it did.
Turned into a blessing.
If you took beginning of the season, right, 66 points from next season, new manager, we're getting 5th, we're getting European football. I think most fans would have thought, "Oh, he's done well this season. I'll expect better next season." Obviously, it didn't happen, but I think he's been too harshly rejected on that first season. I think he did well. I really do think he did well first season. But that's my opinion. It's my opinion.
Try and live by what comes out your mouth, and unfortunately, when you're saying you can't get your message across because you don't have enough games, we only played 41 games that season, the least amount for 16 years, and then he says the next season he's got too many games. I mean, you can't have it both ways. Do you know what I mean?
But he's had the same problem every manager we've brought in a lot of these last 14. Like Poch wasn't back for 518 games.
Oh, that's a fact.
And it's took many managers since, because we've only just started getting a squad. Net squad's a lot better than finish 17th. Let's be fair about it.
Do you think he was backed? Do you think he wasn't backed? Do you think Ange Postecoglou wasn't backed? He's been more backing than any manager.
Hold on. He wasn't back with oven-ready players. And before we go down, because people start mentioning the money, you know as well as I do, a new manager might get 1 or 2 players in that he wants from the club. but they are not. There's a recruitment team, and you know that as well as I do. There's a recruitment team. Managers is not given the checkbook and say, right, you can bring in anyone you want, and they're not all down to him. Right? I mean, you look at Conte with Spence, left him on the bench. That was a club signing. There've been loads. Johnson was virtually a club signing, right? So there's been loads like it. So he wasn't back, Johnny. He wasn't backed.
Hang on a second. Brennan Johnson was not a club signing. Brennan Johnson was someone that he demanded. Bearing in mind that he signed for Brent, he agreed a deal with Brentford for £35 million. Okay, and Brennan Johnson didn't want to go. When Ange turned up, Daniel Levy had to end up paying £12 million more than the fee that was agreed with Brentford for Brennan Johnson. So he demanded that player, and that's a fact.
We looked at Johnson when Paratici was there before Ange was managing.
I'm just telling you. I'm just saying to you, you know what I know to be fact. That's all. That's all. Anyway, that's the last stage.
Look, he's gone. I just want to be. I want to be fair. I've always come from a balanced perspective. I want to be fair to Ange, and I think he's been very harshly judged in his first season. And when people want to conflate you can't conflate 2 seasons. They're totally different things. There are too many variables that happen throughout each season to conflate them. You can make him look bad. So in 67 games, he's lost this or the other or whatever, or how many games he's played. Yeah, to suit a narrative when people want to push something. I get where they're coming from, but I just don't agree with it. You know.
And listen, he lost 12 games. It wasn't great, and he lost 22 games this season. Even
not good enough. No, not good enough this season.
The king is dead. Long live the king. Is the king Thomas Frank, Johnny? Is it a done deal?
Listen, yes.
Yeah,
I think it's. I think the only thing is compensation. Listen, I'm fortunate enough. A friend of mine has had a player at Brentford for quite a while. Unfortunately, he's out injured at the moment. He's had a serious injury called Josh Da Silva, and so I've sort of followed Brentford all the way from the Championship when he got appointed into the job. He didn't have a very good start, actually, which worries me. He didn't have a very good start at Bromby either. If he has the same start he had at his opening gambit at Brentford, he might have a rocky road. But listen, for me, this is a guy that plays 3 at the back, 4 at the back, 5 at the back, 1 up front, 2 up front. He has various systems. He will change the system during the game. But like was said before, you know, this is a guy who played survival football, but with a will to win. He had to have 2 hats on. He couldn't afford to lose, but he had to have in the mindset to always want to win. And that was, I think, it was a very difficult thing to achieve. And I think when he walks into that dressing room at Spurs, he's going to have a massive hard-on because, let's be honest, right? You know, if you took out Brian Mbuemo, Vissa, maybe
Nusi.
Yeah.
Nusi.
Huh?
Nusi, is it? The young striker. Nusi, is it?
Sade, you mean?
No. Who's the young striker here?
Wissa.
No, not Vissa. Oh, done that. It'll come to
right,
me.
Okay. Anyway, he hasn't got that much as far as Arsenal in his team. And, you know, to go into that dressing room with 2 players that he already tried to sign in Archie Gray and Brennan Johnson. And I posted something earlier today where he was waxing lyrical about our midfield and our team. So I think he's going to be very, very happy. And I think Daniel will enjoy it because this is a guy who will be delighted with what he's been dealt, even when he walks into that changing room compared to what he's got before. But the fans need more.
That's a problem, Tony. That's a problem.
So before I come in, will he be happy that he's got Brennan Johnson, having seen what Brennan Johnson's done at Tottenham compared to the player he was about to sign?
But you probably have used Brennan Johnson in a different way.
Well, Brennan Johnson will be more as an inside forward. But one thing's for sure, he will not tolerate Brennan Johnson not going past the player.
No, quite
And
right.
not in the player. I mean, that's most for sure. And that's why Manor Solomon could be of interest to Thomas Frank, because he runs at players, he causes problems, draws players in, wins fouls, and that's what Brennan Johnson has to do to become a complete footballer. Right now, he's back post Johnson.
I do have a little bit of sad news to pass on. My news flash has come up. Some of you will remember, Tom, you may not, but Uriah Rennie, the Premier League's first black referee, has died at the age of 65. I say that as a man of 65, and your dad's 65 as well, Tom.
I remember.
You remember him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you he was my favourite referee, but you know, in a time when it's still difficult to get, even get a few women now, but certainly from people from ethnic minorities to make it in the game. So that's very sad news. That is very sad news. Adrian, you watch a lot of football. You watched a lot of Brentford. How do you think that Thomas Frank might line up? Will he be a 4-2-3-1 guy? Will he go with the kind of 4-3-3 he plays at Brentford? Will it be the kind of flexible 3-4-3 or 5-3-2 that Glasner plays at Palace? What's your expectations?
When I've seen them, they seem to be more of a. I mean, you never get a set pattern, do you? If you set up at 4-2-3-1, you never get a sort of a set pattern. A team plays like that. He seems to be more of a 4-2-3-1. I mean, and a team that breaks quickly, you know, swift breaks. But I mean, I only see Brentford when they played against us. They always cause us problems, but we all seem to get across the line against them. So. I don't know too much about Frank. I've got to be honest. I don't. I mean, I know he didn't do too well in Europe with Bromby. I know he's got no European pedigree as such, right? But it doesn't mean to say he can't come here and do it and compete on 4 fronts. But to do that, he's going to have to be backed in this window.
Yeah, and I mean that was the point that I was, trying. I don't know where Johnny's disappeared to, but the fact that Thomas, I'm for Thomas Frank. I think he will be a very, very good manager. Either way, irrespective of if Ange had stayed or any new manager comes in, the playing squad needs improvement. So what I don't want Thomas Frank to do is come in and go, oh look how all these players, they're so great, and then we go, oh sweet, right, yeah, we'll keep Basuma, we'll keep all of these players that we don't, wonderful if you think you can make, and then halfway through the season we're like, no, these players still aren't good enough. So either way, like the players need improving, and I hope that when Thomas Frank comes in, that he doesn't just say, oh yeah, everyone's amazing. Like he needs to. The one thing that is good is we've seen the outpouring of love for Ange from the players and stuff. Actually, another thing that's been labelled towards Thomas Frank is that he is a very good manager as well. He will come in, he will, be appreciative of what Ange did before him, get the players on side, and then go from there. So I think that's the important thing and stuff. So, I'm excited by the prospect of Thomas Frank. I'm very, very excited by the prospects of Thomas Frank. Welcome back, Johnny. Was it signed Adrian?
Oh, Sam, I've just messaged you because I've got some video from you. Hey, 166 of you now. 167. We're still growing online. Please hit the like and subscribe button. It really does help the show enormously. If you're on, you want to come in?
Yeah, I'll just plug the show. Look, 160 of you watching us now, which is absolutely fantastic. We are a fledgling group. We pride ourselves at actually bringing fact-based content and having mature and sensible guests like Tom and Johnny on. Shoulder always laugh when I say something like that. He goes, I don't know about the mature and sensible, That's stretching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. You'll see what we can't see in the bottom right-hand corner. There should be a YouTube subscribe button. You can subscribe. We do have a Facebook group with 14,500 members. I don't blame anyone for not using Facebook. I know some people prefer to stick to certain forms of social media and others. We've got a Twitter group, 3,200. You can find Johnny on Twitter as well. I don't know if he's put his Twitter handle up as well. Yeah, that's right. Okay. And we've got a page which is just under 300, just like that. But the page is mainly there because these groups are broadcast there and on Twitter. And we're in 2 WhatsApp group. We share the WhatsApp group with Johnny's an admin in for Sean Butler's show. We share that group. I've got my own group with Ian and that and Tom and all that. And basically we use the groups to actually get guests on the show. It's a good little like sync to get guests. So if any of you like are interested in coming on the shows at all, I mean, like, just contact us. We only need your phone number to add you to the WhatsApp groups, and we'll invite you on the show. All are welcome. Back to you, Ian.
The only group that Adrian's not on is OnlyFans, but give it time.
I'm subscribed to his OnlyFans group. I tell you, Tom, let me bring you in. There's a question from our good friend, Just a Harmless Potato. Where do you expect us to finish in the league next season? Top half? Do we qualify for Europe again? Do we win a cup? You know,
I think 100% we have to be qualifying for at least the Europa League, because if the club is putting out a statement and sacking Ange based on the fact that the league was poor, it's clear that the club are prioritising league performance over winning silverware. So therefore, the expectation from me now, from what the club has done and said and put out in their statements, is that I want to be seeing us in the top 6 at least. I would still probably be happy with a few decent cup runs and you know, getting out of the league stage of the Champions League and into the final 16, the last 16 of that, and you know, finishing top 8. I think would be a very, very good first season for Thomas Frank. But
you know, do you agree with that comment with the current squad? I mean, if I have a real criticism,
I believe this squad's a lot better. I think we didn't just have injury problems; we had fatigue problems. There were so many variables. This squad's much better than. I mean, we all know he's sitting here now. We know we like to think we've got some knowledge at football. We've got about 100 odd years between us, right? So I mean, yeah. I mean, no, and like that squad's much better. I think the squad as it is capable of getting that 6th or 7th place. I mean, and what I would want is. I mean, I know Levy and the board would want Champions League because it guarantees them 8 games and about 90 mil, right? But for me, you give me a domestic trophy, the FA Cup, or both of them, and top 6 or 7th. And the reason I say 6th or 7th, which is more attractive to me than 5th, which would guarantee get us a European spot through coefficient places, is because we can win this Europa League again. We can win it. If any time we're in it, we should believe we can win this trophy, you know? So I would take 6th or 7th, I really would. But I want a domestic trophy. I want the FA Cup or the League Cup as well. Johnny?
There's nothing like being a little bit greedy. I think, you know, we've gone 41 years without European trophy. You know, like buses, you wait for ages and they all come along in one go. I think we shouldn't put too big a demand on. I don't think this squad is ready for Champions League.
It's not.
And top 5. I really don't. I think we will be more pragmatic, more counter-attacking football. We won't be playing a high line. It'll be interesting to see whether he plays 3 at the back. But I think, you know, you cannot have Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero playing Champions League on the Wednesday and then on the Saturday playing, you know, Liverpool, what have you. It's just not going to last. We need depth and, you know, the rotation. And I don't feel we have it in defence. We need another top quality left centre-back, whether that's Ndikia or my personal favourite is Hincapié at by Leverkusen, who can play left centre-back and left-back. But I would think it would be reasonable in a first season to have a reasonable campaign in the Champions League, maybe getting through to the knockout stages playoff stages would be an achievement with this squad, and finishing in the top 6 and a good run in the cup for a first season, as long as we were in Europe. And like you said, if we ended up in the Europa League, why not go on and win it again? Definitely possible. Definitely.
I'm not sure I agree with this. I'll have my own little say. I don't know that you say Romero and Van der Ven can't play on Wednesday and a Saturday. I mean, most clubs have, like you look at someone like Jonathan and Gabriel at Arsenal, or Van Dijk at
missed
Liverpool.
the last few weeks of the season, right?
Yeah, well, eventually, yeah. You say it catches up, but I mean, the point you're making is that if they play on a Saturday, they can't play on a Wednesday, or vice versa.
Well, no, I'd said on a repeat basis. I can't say that. I'm not saying they can't do it 1 week, but you look at someone like Christian Romero, and Christian Romero, when we signed him from Atlanta, had a muscle injury, a muscle condition, right, which needs to be monitored. He cannot play every single game, so he has to be monitored. And we got Danso.
And Dragusin comes back, he'll be much more suited
100%
to a system where he's three. Well, whether 3 at the back or not the high line. Dragusin is what I would call a good old-fashioned centre half. Mike England, Jackie Charlton, rather than a stylish player. Sometimes you need that. Danso, Dragusin. This boy Vuskovic, I don't know much about him, but everything I hear suggests he's going to be top class.
Yeah, I've watched lots of him.
Adrian, you come in, please.
The thing with centre backs, though, to me, is like they don't do as much running as other players do. They can play more games than their fullbacks and things like that. I remember Vicky van der Ven saying for Holland when he was playing at left back, he went, "I've never had to work so hard." Whereas he's good as a sprinter, he's good over long distance sort of thing. I'm not saying he hasn't got the capacity to get a bit more stamina and a higher level of fitness, because he's got a very high ceiling. But so your centre backs can play more games. The rest of the team, I mean, obviously the goalkeeper, you haven't got to worry about a goalkeeper. The other 8 outfield players, different ball game. They'll do a lot more running. They get through a lot more kilometres. So yeah, that's the only different thing. They can play, but obviously they're not going to. You can't expect VDV and to play 50 games like Porro did, over 4,000 minutes this season, and even Decky played 40 games. But Porro's, he's got a natural fitness, like he doesn't get injured. So you can do it with a player like that. He's more of a freak. Decky took 40 games before he got sort of injured, right? So we know they're less susceptible of getting injuries if they're overplayed, right? They might get knackered.
That was a joke, Adrian, because he actually told us he was on the edge. He actually came out and said, "I'm on the edge. I've been overplayed." And, to see that now, be lucky if he's back by February.
And then when he's a little bit out of form, a fan base, they're onto him like a rash. Oh, he's crap. You know what I mean? And actually overall, if you take the first, he's been the best player this season, So, so look, this is a good squad. I mean, 3 or 4 players could transfer in this squad. I reckon we need 7. We're not going to do it in this window. I think we'll get about 3. Yeah, I think we'll get 3 in and maybe a couple of loans. I mean, I was talking to Ian earlier. I would love to get, say, Buemo in with Eze. Frank likes Richarlison. He's on record of past of liking Richarlison. He might, on a club I want to sell him. He's in his last year. If we got them in, I'd bring Lancashire back in the squad.
He's not in his last year. He's got 2 more years.
All right, okay. I'm a year out. Okay, I apologise. So, and then, because of the issue we have with foreign players, because we can only have, at the moment, 22 in the Champions League squad at the moment, because only Austin's the only academy trained player for 3 years from the ages of 15 to 21. He's the only one who's done 3 years. So that I know of, unless someone else has got another year under the belt since, over the last season. So and then I would look at bringing Walker Peters back if it meant we're bringing Mbuemo in, or we're top heavy, because then we're going to have the issue like we had last season, whereby we left out Kinski, we left out Dragusin because he was injured, and
Spence.
We left out Werner. We left out Werner in the January list, and we brought in Danso, Spence, and Tell, didn't we? So you've got that issue. So this transfer window is not. I mean, like I'd love Simons and Eze. If it was Simons and Eze, if we couldn't get them, two out of those three, I would love spend the 110 mil, get them two in, one for 60 odd, like and one for 50 odd or whatever. And then that would give our forwards enough support anyway, and although we want another striker, it's the money thing. It's how much we've actually got. In theory, could spend about 250, but we haven't got that, right? So I think we can still get two quality signings in. Get Walker Peters in because he can play on the left and right. Get him in.
Tom, what's your take on the squad? I mean, I'm probably with Adrian on this. I think if the players are utilised properly, not overworked and played in their best positions, there's a lot more to come out of the current players. I think a lot of them are much better than Ange made them look.
Well, this squad of players finished in the top 5 the season before last. So, don't get me wrong, I feel like there's a lot of improvement to be had there. I think as the season progressed, selling or loaning out Højbjerg ended up being a bit of a stupid thing to do. He was probably our only real sort of defensive midfielder, and actually loaning him to Marseille, I think, ended up being a bit of a dumb thing to do. And like, look, they admitted this in this second season that they underestimated how many players they were really going to need to compete on all fronts, and nothing's going to change this season. In fact, it's going to be even harder because we're in a much more tougher competition. So we have to improve the squad. I definitely think the squad is good enough to obviously be finishing way higher than 17th and still competing in all competitions. But we know we need better players. Like we 100% need better players. We haven't got any like match winners in our squad. We were, for the last sort of 10 years or so, we've had Kane and a fully firing Son, who on their day in a game, they could be playing crap for 90 minutes and then just ping up with a goal that wins you the game and stuff like that. We don't have a player who can do that, which is why I wanted like Cunha or someone like that, a guy who can just go, here's the ball, I'll stick it in the back of the net from like 20, 30 yards or whatever. But the problem is our squad building, because of pre-Paratici, we completely screwed up on club trained players. So we're now at a situation where we can't register a big squad for the European games because we just don't have any club trained players. As you said, Austin is the only one. The only way we can get another one in is if we bring back Carl Walker-Peters or or Carl Walker himself, if he decides to,
or Marcus Edwards or Dennis Turkey.
The Mikey Moore and the other boy who scored against Edwards. Yeah, do they not count?
No, because they've got to be over 21 to be counted as club trained. So at the moment, they just go on a B list as a youth player.
Van and Gray can't go on the B list because they've not been with the academy for 2 years.
In 2 years' time, we'll be awash with club trained players because of the work that actually Paratici and
I read it actually 3 years. 3 years from the ages of 15 to 21, but I haven't double sourced that. I only got it from one report that you've got to have done 3 years from the age of 15 to 21, and I still doubt that. Actually, I think it's older.
No. I'm pretty sure it's not 15 to 21. It's actually over the age of 16 because lots of people were talking about like if we decided to try and get Noni Madueke back, but because he left before that time, he's never done the 3 years with the club and stuff. So, but
I think it's 18.
Romain Mundle, yeah, bring back Romain Mundle
or Madueke. I mean, I think it's 18 because that's the year you can sign a professional contract.
Yeah, but
I'm not sure. If anyone knows in the chat, let us know.
Irrespective, I can see us bringing Carl Walker-Peters back. I think there's a lot of sense to it in the fact that he can play left and right back, as can Jed Spence, and it covers those positions. It then allows you to register an extra player for that. But
23 we would have been.
which is why these stories and fans have got way over the top on this. And I'm normally one to beat Levy up about things, but the whole the club needs to sell one to bring one. Well, yeah, because we're already overstocked with players that we can't register for the competition. So of course we need to get rid of some to bring some in. That's just logical squad building.
And you imagine, right? You've got to be very careful with it, because if you're a player in that squad and you're left out of the Champions League, you're going to be really pissed off.
Well, but then there was players that were left out of the Europa League squad.
I know, but you know what, guys? We got more wingers than Nando's. It's ridiculous, right? We're going to have to send some back. I'm not for buying Matthias Tell. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the kid, but we do not need to be spending, if we're short of money, we do not need to be spending 30 million pounds on that player, when I'd rather put it towards an Eze, an Mbuema, Monster 6, or a Hincape. We've got Mikey Moore, we've got Manus Solomon, we've got Richie, who can play up on the left-hand side. We've got Brennan Johnson. We got Odebear. Come on. We don't need any more.
Is there an expectation, anybody that Manus Solomon might be staying at the club?
He had a blinding game for Israel against Estonia. He had an assist. This was the weekend, right? He had an assist, and he's got 10 goals and 12 assists for Leeds. You've got to have a look at him. He only had two cameos, 15-minute cameos for Spurs, and then he had his best game against Burnley away, 1-5-2, and 2 assists for Son's hat-trick, right? I mean, and then what I was looking for, I hadn't seen for him, was sometimes you get their heads down, arse up wingers that don't look up. He looks up. He's got the nous to look up and play someone in. I like wingers that do that, right? Rather than just hit and hope a ball in the middle.
Adrian, you see my feed. If you look on my feed, when I made a comment about Manus Solomon bringing him back, I mean, it's something like, I don't know, 150,000 views, and and a lot of it is nasty shit, right? But I don't understand it. He's got a low centre of gravity, right? What he does, he's braver than Brennan Johnson. He takes players on. He drives into the box, causes pandemonium, takes players with him, creates space for others. And not only that, he's the type of guy who could drop his shoulder and drop one into the bottom corner from outside.
Reminds me, Johnny. He reminds me of Aaron Lennon. Right?
Yeah.
He kept Mudryk out of Dennett's side. He kept Mudryk out of that Shakhtar Donetsk side. I don't know if it's for injury or what. I haven't totally sourced that. But
what got me about the Manus Solomon thing is, to me, he is such an Ange type player. When you look, Johnny, watching Celtic and Rangers. Yeah. If you look at Jota, you look at Maeda, those kind of players that Ange had Rangers on toast, and everyone in the Scottish League with players that went past players with real pace, verve, intention. Manus Solomon's got that in spades, and yet for whatever reason he was farmed out, and I don't really get that.
Well, there's a lot of things I don't get about what Ange did, like dropping Spence out of the European squad, right at the beginning when he said he wanted to keep him. I could go on, but I can't. But I what I would say to you is, for me, Manus Solomon, if you were buying him, if his name wasn't Manus Solomon and you were watching him, and you were watching the goals and assists and the trouble he's been causing in the league, you'd be going, I'll have some of that. 30 million, okay, some of that. Odebear, that's what we paid Burnley for him. 30 million. Yeah, Spurs fans turn their nose up. He's only done it in the Championship. Did Odebear have 22 GA? I'm not sure. I wouldn't have thought so. Ask the Leeds fans what they want.
Nobody wanted Odebear.
Well,
no one knew he was signing him until he was signing on the dotted line.
Yeah, exactly. But we've got someone like Manus Solomon, and there's all this resistance to him ever coming back to the club for the wrong reasons, I must hasten to add.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, right? It's not really footballing reasons that a lot of people have issue with. I'm not one to get involved in any of that, because I'm not clued up enough on anything that's going on in that department for me to make any kind of comment on that situation. You know, in terms of footballer, yeah, he's clearly got ability. He was at Shakhtar Donetsk. He was good whilst he was there. You know, we got him on a free. He's done well at Leeds. I mean, I think the main reason why he wasn't at Spurs last season was because he got a horrific injury the season before, and actually it was about getting him game time and minutes, which has now happened. That's the whole point of a loan, right? Get the guy minutes, bring him back, and then you can assess him from there. The thing with Frank, we've got lots of wingers, but Frank plays different ways, doesn't he? Sometimes he'll play the free up front where he has his wingers a bit wider, but they're more inside forwards than they are wingers as Ange used them, or he'll play two up front. And this is why, although again, I wouldn't be spunking 30 million on Matis Tel if it can be better invested in other areas. But if you invest in those other areas and you can still afford that 30 million on Tel, I would be getting him, because Tel is an inside forward. He's not a winger. He's an inside forward. And I actually think he would suit Thomas Frank's system when he's playing two up top really, really well. Whereas Solomon's only going to be useful in Frank's system if he's playing the 4-3-3. And that's, you know, but
that gives him the
players. This is sorry, Ian. If you're looking,
what I'm going to say to you, Tom,
funds. If you're looking to sell players and generate funds, he's a player that has got interest and could accrue a decent amount. Now, if you're saying you want to buy Eze and you're 20 mil, 30, 25 mil short, would you sell Solomon to then bring in Eze? I probably would. You know.
If we don't, I'd rather keep Solomon, from what I'm hearing, and not buy Tel for 30 million and put that money. I mean, there's obviously not an unlimited amount of money, but if you're asking me, could we have Mbeumo left and Mbeumo right and Eze left with Solanke through the middle or whatever? And particularly if what you say, Adrian, is right, that he wants to keep Richarlison as well. Not sure about that. We sell Richarlison, get another.
I'm not sure about it either. But that's
absolutely cooking up front.
Richarlison's going nowhere.
Yeah,
you know that, Johnny.
I'm sure. David, thanks for bringing this guy up. I love this player. Right, I've watched him on Western. I've watched the highlights and all that. I mean, we paid 12 million for him as a 16-year-old from Hedgick Split. He went out to Poland, smashed it there. Gone to Westerlo with Alfie Devine, absolutely smashed it there. Something like 7 goals in 20-odd games or something. You know what? This kid is so good on the ball, giving players the slip when they're close to him as well. Apart from the fact being good on the air, reads the game so well, right? We could use him as a number 6. He could even play as a number 6. Go and watch his videos on the tackle.
Adrian, stop, Adrian. Right, he is a centre-back. He is only 18 years old. Let him learn his trade in the position that he is
talking
learning
about.
it.
Who's he talking about?
Vuskovic. He's talking about Vuskovic.
Like, hang on, Vuskovic is not coming. Vuskovic is going to come in the summer, and he's gone. He's going out on loan. He's not ready for the
and that is the right thing to do, because
if he goes out on loan, it because we can't add him to the Champions League.
No, he needs to go out on loan and preferably either in the Championship or to a Premier League team where he's going to be playing week in, week out. He's 18 years old. Let's not act like he's the second coming of Christ for God's sake. Like,
I think he's probably right. He's one we need.
Very good young player, but
he's a maturity beyond his years. I'm telling you, I think he's probably the best young centre back at his age I've ever seen.
Yeah, but let's not kill him before he's had a chance to.
I'm not going to kill him. He's going to smash it.
Okay, let's talk about Adrian. You talk about subs and lights. We have gone over the 200 mark for. I don't think we did it last Sunday. There wasn't much happening, but we've done it for the last couple of Sundays. We're over 200. So,
yeah. Big up to all those viewing us on Twitter or XCOM as it is now, on the page, on the Facebook page, and those that are here. I know you're always using different platforms to view us. Thank you to everyone in the chat for your comments and questions as well. Like we said earlier, if you like the content, please subscribe to that red YouTube button in the right hand corner, and we really do appreciate your support. Ian,
please, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and it's all in context with the stuff we've talked about with a new manager, with Charrington on the board, maybe Levy stepping down, etc. Scott Munn worked with Ange in Japan. The word on the street is his history. Adrian, you got any knowledge of that, or?
It's not been confirmed. Johnny would probably know more. Johnny, do you know more about this? It's not.
Yeah, listen, as far as I'm concerned, he was none too clever to start with. He should have stuck to cycling. Look, it was a bad appointment. He fell out with too many people. Jeff Scott left. His job was to redo the medical centre. That was a complete and utter disaster. Putting adverts on LinkedIn for medical staff. Come on, we're a multi-million-pound organisation, right? With racehorses, with thoroughbreds. You know, you don't do that. You look for the best, and you look for recruitment companies to take you through this.
Oh,
Is Johnny frozen? Because I got a message from Johnny saying I'm frozen, and
Scott Munn's obviously he's obviously hacked
Indeed,
on his
internet.
Yeah.
Well,
Scott Munn's.
Yeah, I haven't seen any confirmation. Have you seen anything, Tom?
No, I don't. It's a lot of rumours, but I
think he's going.
He's got to go, isn't he? It's not worked. It looks like there's wholesale changes, and wholesale changes are coming because of this alleged takeover. So, yeah, I can't see Scott Munn keeping his job.
Yeah, I mean, I'll bring this up in context, but couple of things that Johan Lange say. Adrian, this is your comment that he worked with Thomas Frank. Was that meant? Is that Digby or is that meant to be Bromby? That's gone wrong.
No, it's Digby. It's Digby.
I don't know. That's all.
So yeah, I mean, people are saying Lang is going. I don't think Lang's going anywhere. I think Lang will be given charge of bringing young players in, and Paratici bringing the oven ready ones. But I could be totally wrong on this. And this hints at like he's had a say in persuading Frank to come to our club. To me, it alludes to it, in my opinion. In which case, you ain't sacking a man for doing that. So, yeah, to me, this sort of this smells of like Lang. Because he is the director of football. He's the one who's supposed to be looking for the manager as well, you know. And I think Scott was more responsible for bringing Ange in, so because they're Australian. But I could be wrong on that though. What do you fathom from this, Tom?
Well, I think there's people in chat saying that Lang is useless and stuff like that. But I think the one thing he has done well is the recruitment of younger players. Like, he brought Bergvall to the club. I think we can all agree that Bergvall's been a roaring success. Yeah, so I definitely think every person who buys players is going to have some that hit and some that miss. I definitely think he was better with recruiting the younger players than he was the more senior players. But at the same time, he was responsible for Mickey van der Ven coming to the club. He was responsible for Madison coming to the club. He was, it's easy to say, oh, he's useless, he's crap. But let's not, the first season we finished 5th. We didn't get in the Champions League. And yes, we invested our money probably a little bit poorly. We invested in far too many kids and only one senior. Had we finished in the Champions League, we probably would have seen a complete difference for the players that we recruited in that second season.
And to what you wisely said, he also got rid of a lot of deadwood.
Well, yes, and for as much as I love, for as much as I am for Paratici coming back, it is widely regarded that Paratici is not very good at selling players. Lang did a fantastic job at getting players out the door. So if they are going to work together, then we could hopefully see the best of both worlds. I'm not sure I could see Paratici working on the same level as Langer, or unless he's just going to be an advisor. But it would make much more sense if maybe Paratici comes in as the top guy and then Lang working underneath him. So we could have the best of both worlds in that regards.
Yeah, I mean that's not a view most of us would share. A lot of interesting comments from Chinwag Spurs, but Lange is useless to Scott Munt. I think it's a bit harsh, isn't it?
I think when fans that have got the ump have used a scattergun approach to have a pop at everything at this club, right? None of them really know what Johan Lang's done behind the scenes because he's not the sort of. I mean, Paratici know more about him. He tends to he's a bit more public, whereas Johan Lang, he keeps everything. He's like Nicholson. He kept everything close to his chest. You never knew about a signing until they're actually signed. So, I mean, I'm not going to critique Johan Lang's badly at all, because I think we've got rid of, since he's been in 2 seasons, I think the list of players we've got rid of since he's been here, and he's the DOF, it's like it's got to be, I don't know, but it's a lot, and that includes, you've also got to do all the deals for your academy players and get them clubs as well. You'll be in charge of all of that, so and they're only going out on loan and we're getting them back, but you've still got to arrange all that and do all that as well. So no, I think he's been a busy man, and I think he's staying. I think he's staying, actually.
Let's look at just 1 or 2 other things happening behind the scenes. I've got a funny feeling we're due back on Tuesday, or we're not due back on Tuesday, but you never know, Adrian.
It closes June the 10th to the 16th. That won't stop us having communication and doing deals. I mean, our recruitment team should have been working from the beginning of the season, making lists, compiling lists and all that. Go on, Tom.
This first transfer window was purely for the teams in the Club World Cup to be able to sign and register players for that. That's all it's for.
Man City and Chelsea. And why we're doing them 2 clubs favours, I don't know.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes, as I said. The coaches that have gone, Milo Jedinak, Serge Raimondo, Nick Montgomery, to make way for the new coaches. There was something was posted earlier. I've read this as well, and it may have been it was one of the Davids anyway. I think David Shear may have said that Natalie Sawyer, the TalkSport correspondent, who is an avid Brentford supporter, has said that from her sources inside Brentford, the deal for Frank is done. The only thing they're quibbling about now is the backroom staff, and presumably that's the number that we take. Might even be the analytics people that we take, and the coaching staff. The rest of it is a done deal. Adrian?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Frank will know who has been of most use to him at Brentford. It might not necessarily, we don't know many who bring, but it just seems that the fact that we've got rid of 3, and we're keeping our head coach like Matty Wells, and we're keeping Rob Birch, the goalkeeping coach, because Stuart Lewis looks like he's gone to West Brom with.
Just let me bring you in there. Why are they staying? Would that be the fact you think that Thomas Frank has said, "I know these guys and I want them to stay"?
No, I think that they would have had a deal. Who you bringing in? And Frank said, probably said, I want to bring 3 of my staff in, and we'll keep a couple. Matty Wells would be a stopgap if things went wrong, like Ryan Mason was, But Ryan Mason always inherited a shit show, didn't he? So, but he's highly rated. And Matty Wells is very highly rated as well. That's why he was a head coach to Ange. And Rob Birch is the goalkeeping coach. So, he would obviously stay anyway, because we don't know if Frank had some out-of-worldly goalkeeping coach, no doubt he would have said, I want to bring my own man in, and then Rob Birch would have probably given more time with the academy. So and it shouldn't be an issue like that. If you're a manager and you bring 3 staff in, that should be enough, right? That should be enough,
Yeah.
So
backroom not backroom at all, but the other side of the game, the women's game, we've sacked another manager in 2 and 3 days. Even by Spurs standards, that's still quite high.
Yeah.
Adrian, you don't really follow the women's game that closely, do you?
No. We've had the night of the long knives at the club, haven't we? There's been something big coal going. Remember that under the Wilson government?
Tom,
Yeah.
you have any knowledge of this? Because I can't comment. I don't watch the women's team at all.
He had a very good season. This season, I think the ladies' teams got relegated or finished second from bottom or something like that. He got to the cup final and they got spanked 4-0 or 5-0 by Man United. Didn't I watch that game, sadly? And like this women's team, in this evolution of the women's team, it hasn't been going for so long. It's only a couple of seasons ago they broke into the top division. So now they've got relegated back down again, right? So obviously not with all the work that's going to be done at Cruise Hill, right, on the women's side of the game. That we want a top class team, don't we? So there's going to have to be investment in this squad as well. So for the women's to do well, right? But
just a couple of things I want to cover before we finish. Well, Adrian, what I was alluding to, I think you misinterpreted the question. If we get an announcement of Thomas Frank tomorrow or Tuesday, we'll come back on Tuesday with another show, will we not?
Yeah, we will. We will. I mean, you guys, I mean, we're talking about we need to bring in like a couple of Galacticos, and by that, the only ones I see out there really are Xavi Simons, who's got a 60 million buyout clause. I'd take him tomorrow as a 10. You've got Eze, 68 million, but I'm not sure. Was he only got a year? No, he had signed a contract. He's got plenty of years in his contract.
Yeah.
And then there's Buemo. I'd like two of those three. Spend most of their money on two of those three and bring like Carl Walker-Peters in. And then if there's any money, if you want to get a defensive midfielder in, if you think Bentancur, Gray or Bergvall can't do that job for us, or George Abbott even, if he gets a run out in pre-season, then I'd like to see, because to me, our midfield was really let us down last season. Most games are won and lost in midfield, and it needs beefing up and with quality. So give me Buemo, then if Frank's coming, Buemo and Eze, and then get a defensive midfielder in and Walker-Peters, and I think that would be a very good window for us. Very good window.
Would you tell John?
No, I wouldn't. I'd keep all the experience we've got for the Champions League. You need him. I'm keeping Son. I think Son will go anyway.
Oh, I think if we need to generate some money, then he's the guy who makes sense to sell. To be honest,
I agree.
And if as the rumours are saying that Saudi is going to be offering 40, 50 million for him, then absolutely bite their hand off and take that money. Whether or not Son will want to take that money, I don't know. That's it's unfortunately with transfers, it's not just a club wanting to sell. It's you need three parties that all want to do the same thing. So
I would rather keep Son and sell Son and keep Manor Solomon.
Well, yeah. I mean,
thanks, David. Take care. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for viewing us.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one. You've got more. If you keep Son, then you lose him for free next season. So the value in selling Son is only in this summer. And also, I think that's probably the best thing for his legacy is go out the season after winning a trophy. And I think that's the nice sunset finish for him and Son. Even if you want to give him, the keep him for the Super Cup game and then sell him after that, fine.
Well, he's shown no interest in money. He doesn't need the money. He's sponsored probably by every South Korean planet there is in South Korea. He's got loads of money. He's never shown an interest to be greedy and go for the big bucks in the past. I actually think he'll want to have a crack at the Champions League, and that's why I think Richarlison will dig his heels in and he won't go. Mind you, Frank likes him, so I think both of them will be at the club next year. But then whether Richarlison is in the ECL squad is another matter. But yeah, I just don't. I think Son will see his career at Spurs and just he's going to be an ambassador. If he does go like you say, which he could go. He's going to end up an ambassador at his football club in the end anyway, whatever happens. But if I was him and I've got money and all that, I'm thinking I want to crack at the Champions League. You never know. But I can't see the club forcing him out. They daren't do that to him after what they've done to him. They couldn't try and squeeze him out. But If he wants,
we could
he's
get
only
40
going if
million,
he wants to go, isn't he? He's only going if he wants to go.
Tom, if we could get 40 million for Richarlison and 40 million for Son, given what we want to spend money, I think that would be fantastic business.
Yeah, and then you add to the fact that there's clubs looking at Basuma. You know, we could generate 100 million with 3-4 players being sold, and then you know, okay, yeah, like I really like Xavi Simons, however you want to say it, from RB Leipzig, but I think it's him or Eze. I think they're very similar in the positions that they play. So I think it's one or the other, and if that's the case, then I'd probably lean more towards Eze.
Yeah.
I've been saying for ages that I want Mbuemo even before he had this season. I just think he's such a clinical finisher, and if he's coming with Thomas Frank and you're bringing in a player that already knows how to play the Thomas Frank way, then that's only gonna
it's zero, absolutely no brainer.
People have been going on about wages, haven't they? Like 130 grand a week at Man U or more, because they're trying to cut their wage bill up there as well. Or 200 million. I heard rumours of 250 mil. Look, these deals can be done. You can give him what the maximum
wage is. Taking, they don't seem to be getting on too well with Maynard. What about him? Would you take him?
Kobe Mainoo, I would take him, but you would take him as like your Basuma sort of like, because he's more of a number 8. He's not a defensive midfielder and stuff. But he wouldn't be someone that I would be, you know, he would be an opportunity buy once you've got everything that you've already want. Not the player that you go out to go and
with Eze or with Buemo, if you can give Werner 170 grand a week, right? You can give those 200 if you have to. If they really wanted 250 or something like that, you can give them a big signing on fee and not break your wage structure. There are ways around this with bonuses and stuff like that. So that's not an issue. We'll see if Buemo wants to come with Frank. As soon as Frank's in, then we should see if we're hitting up on Buemo, or whether he goes, no, I want to go to Man United, because at least we can offer him Champions League football. Man United can't. We know they're the biggest club in the world, but they haven't got that to offer, have they? So, yeah.
Tom, Ben Davis, as ever, I don't know what it is about Ben Davis. People seem to just want to hit the hate button. I don't see what he's done wrong. We need players to compete in the League Cup, the FA Cup.
If he's happy to be sitting on the bench, playing the odd game here and there, if he's happy to not be registered for the Champions League, and then he can just pick up, you know, domestic cups and things like that, then keep him for another year, or you've extended that contract so that you can get a couple of mil for him in the transfer window.
If you're keeping Davis and say Odegaard because they haven't cost you no money, because you're going to put the bulk of your transfer fund into Eze and Buemo, I'm all for it. Because what we don't know sitting here, we don't know how much money there is to spend. We don't know what the figure is. And don't blame the club for not announcing it, because selling clubs will up their prices. So that's not an issue. I think the reason we're getting Davis is because we've earmarked our money for other players. If we have a crap window, I could question keeping Davis and not letting him go. You know,
I just think it's protecting the value of the asset as well. You know, you either keep him for another year, and like you say, he sees you through and he gives you that bit of squad depth, and he's a good professional and he's good for the changing room, or you've now put yourself in a position where you can sell him for a bit of money when we know that there's teams that are interested. Leeds have been interested, Wrexham have been interested. So there's value there for him. And if you have the option of an extension, then you can get money for him, then do it.
I mean, I see Davis as being the kind of person I would want to keep at the club. I mean, I don't know if people have read, but he's been mentoring Archie Gray, looking after Archie Gray, who's almost young enough to be his son, not quite, but almost. And someone I think is going to be an outstanding coach. So he's someone I think should be doing his badges as well as playing, and then becoming an academy coach at Tottenham. I don't know what you think, Adrian. It's 2-2, by the way, on penalties after two. Don't think anybody's missed.
Right.
So
Yeah.
2-2.
Look,
Glad you're staying with the
you
show.
can get. He's been with this club over 10 years. You can get email over 300 games. That gives him legendary status. I mean, he's a good, solid player. Tell me when you've seen him have a bad game out there, right? But because he's not sexy, he's not a Cafu or Roberto Carlos, right? So he's not a sexy player. Now he's moved into centre back. He's a good influence. Our young centre back, Phillips, Vasquez, if he doesn't go out on loan, you lot seem to think he's going out on loan. I think we're keeping him next season, but we'll see. Phillips, Dorrington, and that, when they come back, like even Archie Gray said what good an influence he was beside him when he had to play centre back alongside him. So he gives you that, but he's not an upgrade. I don't know where we're spending our money. If we're just doing the usual, 20 million, 25 million on players, and you're keeping Davis, then no, I wouldn't keep him. But if it's because you've earmarked a couple of players you're going to spend 50, 60 mil for, yeah, I get it. I get why you're signing him on, because we can't fill all the gaps in the squad. And realistically, we need a striker, a right winger, 2 midfielders. That's 4 players, and we need fullbacks as well. We need a left back. Right.
I think you try and find a left-sided centre back who can play left back.
Well, I'm with Johnny on Piero Nkapi, the Ecuadorian. I mean, he's 23, 24 now. He's Leverkusen, but Tar's probably just gone off to Bayern Munich on a free, and there's at least taps over. So I don't think we're getting someone of his quality in, and we've struggled. And even all the media, for all the BS they come out with, how many fullbacks have they mentioned? We've been linked. I counted about 120 players since the beginning of the season, right? And how many fullbacks? Later we've got, Terzic. Who's the one that played very well against us for Brentford? Was it Brentford? No, was it Brighton? I can't remember now. Played really well. He looked good. And the other ones, if you're Robertson at Fulham, they're going to want 50, 60 mil. We ain't paying that. And Nuri at Wolves, is it at Nuri or something? At Nuri?
Yeah, he's going Man City.
Is he? Oh, he looks decent. No wonder.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is where Paratici's your man. Get the left field. Italy always produces good defenders. The Serie A.
Yeah, it's all out of Italy.
Get us a left back.
Okay, just to come in for people who are interested, Spain have missed the penalty. So it's 4-3 to Portugal after 4, which means that Portugal need to convert the 5th penalty to win the whatever it is they're playing for.
Your Nations Cup, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, right, well, we'll just keep that going. Just while that finishes off, I think we're pretty well done. Any final thoughts, Tom? I think this week is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I just think, hopefully they announce the manager sooner rather than later. And it's looking like it's going to be Thomas Frank. And I just hope everyone gets behind him. I know that there'll be some people. I mean, Johnny was saying earlier, you'll get your Ange inners who will be like, if he hasn't won in 10 games. But then, come on, the whole of last season, the season before, you had your Ange outers who were belittling and berating Ange and saying he'll be sacked by Christmas and all of this stuff. So, it's 2 different sides of the coin, but all saying the same thing, right? Like they all have their agendas of what they want to push and who they want to back and who they don't. Just get behind Frank if he comes in, and that's what it is. I would say of all the people we've been linked with, he is the person that I would want the most. Marco Silva would just be horrendous.
I don't want Silva. I would have taken Glasner, but if it's Frank, listen, the king is dead. Long live the king. If it's Thomas Frank, I'm 100% in.
Yeah, look, I'll always support the manager and players. We're at this football club on the record of saying it before. I'm not going to throw darts at Thomas Frank just because I'm angry at the club over the way they dealt with Ange, which I think is disgusting. But you know,
But yeah,
so
I think
all the fans get behind whoever the new manager is. Looks like it's Frank.
Yeah.
Get behind him, give him your full support, and the fans will. They always do when a new manager comes in.
the thing is now the club has put themselves in a position with their statement saying that they want to compete on all fronts, where they now have to put their hand in their pocket and back the new manager that comes in so that he can compete on all fronts. Yeah, we need a squad where when a player's injured, the next player coming in isn't a huge downgrade on the one going out. And that was our problem last year. We spent a lot of time with, and don't get me wrong, you know, he signed a contract extension, but we spent a large portion of last year with Archie Gray and Ben Davis as our centre backs. And that is not going to be winning you, you know, the games that you need to be winning you. So we have to back the manager, and the club has to do it now that they've come out with that statement that they came out with when they sacked Ange. They're saying they want to compete on all fronts. Let's back the manager so we can.
5-3 to Spain is the finish. We'll just wrap up here. I think we've covered what we need to cover tonight. I think we'll be back. I suspect we'll be back on Tuesday. We are scheduled Sunday, Tuesday, Friday, with Adrian hosting on a Tuesday, Drew Zilla hosting on a Friday. That show starts slightly later at 2200 British Summer Time, catching up with our North American friends. This show is mine on a Sunday, Adrian's, as I said, on a Tuesday. We will be back.
5-3 Spain or 5-3 Portugal?
5-3 to Portugal. Sorry if I said it wrong. For those of you there's still 183 of you I'm seeing. Please like and like the channel. It helps us subscribe. Set the little alarm as well so you know we're coming on. And we will see you probably on Tuesday, definitely on Friday. Thank you everybody for coming.
Yeah, just on that. I mean, the only reason I've not been doing the last Tuesday on that is because there hasn't been that much to talk about. It is the close season. Normally, as Ian said, 2 shows go out at 9 o'clock UK time, 2100. They are the Tuesday and Sunday show, and the Friday show goes out at 2200, 10 o'clock UK time, to help cater for our American Canadian audience and some of those in the Southern Hemisphere, like the Aussies that were on today, like Peter Gahagias and David Shear, Tigaro, you know, people like that. Yeah, so once again, thanks you all for your support. I feel guilty at closing the show when there's 188 viewers here, right? Thanks for your comments in the chat. Thanks for who donated. Someone donated 5 members, I think.
Yeah, Peter, I think.
Peter, yeah. Thank you, Peter. You admire your generosity of spirit. Yeah, so like I say, I've already said earlier in the channel where you can find us on Facebook, Spurs Diehards TTID on Facebook.
Tom's got a dash. Tom, you log out. That's fine, Tom. Thank you again. It's always a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, no, I'll probably see you.
Yeah,
see you in the week or next Sunday.
Yeah,
maybe, see you next Sunday.
Yeah, so thank you all for your support, and you know that's about it really. And back to you, Ian, to close the show.
Take care, everybody. Thank you again for everybody. Here's my little ditty that what I wrote.
We are Tottenham diehards. Something I can't explain. We follow through sun and rain. When we lose, we don't complain. Yes, we do, oh, we do. But Tottenham Hotspur, I will love you till I die. I will love you, I die. I will love you till I die, till I die, till I die.
Right. We've got 4 more subscribers.
We're
1,129.
still live. We're still live.